What's up YouTube, Never Lucky Pulls here today with my locals review. I played with my SwordSoul deck. Match 1 was against Magical Musketeers. I won the dice roll and opened up Godly. I had the tennies plus the vessel as the opener, which is insane by itself. And I had also the normal summon SwordSouls. I first activated Pot of Desires to bait Ash, so I wanted my effect of Grandmaster to be resolved. He had no Ash, so I was on the safe side and went also into Dragite since I knew he was playing a lot of spell and traps, and having Dragite is one spell and trap negate. And said 2 pass turn. He had in the main deck Dark Ruler no more, which sucks for me, but lucky for him. And his Link monster couldn't be targeted by my Imperm since he activated the hand trap, the Ritual Dragon. He prevents target effects to be activated on his monsters, so he could search 3 different spell and traps from his deck since I was controlling 3 monsters, which is insane. The Magical Musketeers, if you can't stop the effect of the Link monsters, you will end up losing in most of the cases because your opponent will get so many pluses. But luckily for me, I had a strong follow-up. I had another vessel plus the tennis, which was my saving out there. Otherwise it would be GG right there at this moment, but still I could play. As you can see, I played the vessel and had still all my tennis. I didn't banish all, so I could play at least. And his board wasn't too strong. He had Ignister plus the negate guy, which can't use his negate anymore. And I bounced his Link monster with my Vishuda, went into the Grandmaster and Baron de Fleur. I used the Baron de Fleur pop effect to destroy his negate guy, and I couldn't destroy Ecclesia since she can't be destroyed by monsters from the extra deck. So he lost only life points in this case. He normal summoned one of his Musketeer monsters and went into the Link 2 Charmer Girl, which allows him to special summon one light monster. He went for Maximus, and Maximus allows him to send 2 extra deck monsters to the graveyard. One of them was Elder Entity Edness, which obviously destroys 1 card on the field, so he chose to destroy Baron de Fleur. I had no Baron de Fleur negate, so Baron went to the graveyard. I lost also my Monk and had only Grandmaster on the field. He passed turn, and in my turn I had nothing really to summon, only an Ash to negate his search. Went into the battle phase with my Forbidden Chalice to destroy the Maximus, since he would send another Edness maybe in the next turn, so I would lose also my Grandmaster, and yeah. It was back and forth. He used all his resources, he couldn't overcome my Grandmaster. And in the end, the game went for me. I had Emergence to search myself one SwordSoul monster, and yeah, he couldn't break my board since, like I said, no more resources. And I had also the Iris SwordSoul on the field, and yeah, that was the game move. Game 2, he decided to go first. He normal summoned one of his Musketeer monsters and activated the search card. I negated it with my Ash. And that was pretty much it for his board. He had only 1 monster and a bunch of hand cards, since he can activate them from his hand. I activated Emergence in my turn, it was ashed. I followed up with the Pot of Desires and still couldn't normal summon anything. My draws were very bad, and I guess I banished a lot of my targets, so it was very rough for me to watch. I had only the Monk on the field and the Vishuda, which bounced one of his monsters, and that was pretty much it. I passed turn. In his turn he went for his Link monster and destroyed my Monk. I activated the Ashuna, special summoned him and went into the battle phase, destroyed his Link monster since he gets even more pluses if he's on the field, so I wanted to destroy him first. In his turn he played the Instant Fusion, very interesting. He was also playing the Instant Fusion. You can play it in SwordSoul as well for the level 4 tuner. In case you get Imperm or Ash, you can still follow up, but many players prefer the Dragon Cycle. He went into Link Grieber in past turn. In my turn I luckily drew into Emergence and went for Taya. Taya gave me Grandmaster to the field, and with Grandmaster I had at least 1 negate or some protection, right? He was very low on life points, and yeah, the game was a bit weird. We had no real board to say so. I had nothing and he had nothing, so it was a bit crazy. But yeah, in his turn he destroyed my Grandmaster since he can activate trap cards from his hand when he controls 1 Musketeer monster, and that's what happened. He activated this destruction card. In my turn I luckily drew into the Long Yuan, summoned my token, and from this point the game was over. I went into the Baron de Fleur And since he was very low in life points, I could attack for game, and that was it for the match. Match 2 was against Madolches. First I was thinking he's playing Florwanderies, since he won the dice roll and opened up with Pot of Extravagance plus Chained Dimensional Shift. I was like, oh man, the Empen lock, but no, he was playing Madolches, and he had a bricky hand, I guess. He set only 2 cards and passed turn. In my turn he flipped Gozen Match, which allows me only to summon 1 attribute, so I decided to go for water. Since Moe and the token are water, I can go into Dragite to have at least not a negate but a big body on the field, since I need the water monster in my graveyard, and the Dimensional Shifter banished all my cards. But he couldn't establish a ward himself, since he drew bricky cards, I guess. So I had another Moe as a normal summon and went for a lot of damage, and had the blackout to destroy his back rows, so I was free to summon the Longyuan and went for game. Game 2 he went first, once again opening with Pot of Extravagance, must be nice, right? I had Droll Lockbird as a response, but he could chain Gamma to negate my Droll Lockbird, otherwise it would be very painful for him, so he could still continue on with his Madolches. The Madolches are not strong by themselves, they have a lot of special summon effects. As you can see, he spammed his whole board with Madolche monsters, but the boss monsters are not strong by themselves, they are quite mediocre. The main focus is to get the traps, which is an imperm, and that was my only goal, to negate the trap search. As you can see, I activated imperm on his trap search, and that was basically it for him. You could still summon some Madolche monsters, but I didn't care since the imperm was gone, quote unquote the imperm from the Madolches, right? And yeah, my starting hand wasn't too great. I had evenly matched, that was very good against his deck. In general, evenly matched is a fantastic card going second. His endport was only a link monster, 1 set card, the continuous spell, and 1 Madolche monster. I activated the evenly matched, he banished everything, only leaving the Gozen Match on the field. I normal summoned Taya and went for damage and passed turn. He once again had another pot of Extravagance to draw 2 cards. So he was very low on extra deck, only 3 extra deck monsters or something like that. I don't know if he could even play, but I knew the game was in my favor now, since his extra deck was very thin on extra deck monsters. And yeah, but luckily he still could play. He had 1 target left in his extra deck despite activating 2 Pot of Extravagance. As you can see, he could still summon 1 of his XYZ monsters. Maybe he's playing 3 copies of every one, I don't know, but he was lucky not to banishing all of them, and could still establish not crazy board, but at least having some monsters on the field. He went after that into the battle phase, destroyed my Taya. Luckily for me, I had a second copy of Evenly Matched. You can also activate Evenly Matched in your opponent's turn after the battle phase if you survive, right? So as you can see, I activated Evenly Matched and he had to banish 4 of his cards. He decided to go for his field spell and the 3 monsters. He had Gozen Match, another one, but I had the shooter to bounce his Gozen Match. I special summoned Atara, he's Earth, and went into the Monk, he's also Earth, and could activate the shooter from my hand to bounce his card, and gave him the full SwordSoul juice with Grandmaster and my Cheng Ying, and that was pretty much game. Very crazy match, but yeah, Madolche not competitive sadly against the tier 1 decks. Match 3 was against Dinos. Sadly I lost the dice roll and my opponent had the most godliest starting hand ever. His endport was immortal, I couldn't break it, it was insane. He had also a spicy tag, you will see it in the video. His endport was the Dolka, which negates monster effects, the Naturia Beast, which negates all spell cards, and Artifact Lock. So I can't special summon from my extra deck, I can't activate spell cards, and I can't activate monster effects. Like, what the fuck, bro? I can't play, it's crazy. Oh man, it was the first time I saw such a broken board established by Dinos. Very sick. But I don't think it's consistent. But in my case, obviously he had it, right? As you can see, his first negate, the Dolka, which negates monster effects, the link to artifact monster, which sets you artifact lock, and he went into the Halfy Breaks to summon the Atara to the field, and with Atara he can go into Naturia beast, which negates spell cards, and it's not once per turn, so it was over for me. I just scooped and went into game 2. Game 2 I went obviously first. My starting hand was okay, it was not great, but it is what it is. I had backs here, went into the Chao Feng to prevent all light effects, aka Nibiru, Effect Whaler, his little Dino guy which is light. I normal summoned Taya, went into the Grandmaster, searched myself the Blackout, not having Long Yuan unfortunately, otherwise my board would be even better. I had one Imperm, the Blackout, one Ash in hand and the Grandmaster on the field, plus the Chao Feng lock. So overall quite decent hand, or let's say start board. He opened up with a search card, I ashed it obviously. He followed up with a normal summon of his Dino, activated his effect. I chained Grandmaster obviously, but he chained his other Dino from hand, which makes all his Dinos unaffected by card effects. I had to chain Imperm to negate the effect, but in the end I made a big misplay. As you can see, I activated Blackout, traded my Chao Feng and wanted to destroy both of his monsters, but I forgot that the Dinos are unaffected by card effects. So I just gave away my Chao Feng and the Blackout for nothing, and that was the losing move here. As you can see, I lost my board, and yeah, sadly a big misplay. I forgot it, I don't know, autopilot or something like that. Happens, right? Happens. Misplays for days. Match 4 was against Ignisters. I won the dice roll and opened up Godly. I had my tennies plus the vessel, so the dream start for the SwordSoul deck. But unfortunately he had Jolly Lockbird as an out in his main deck. I was like, what? No more search with Grandmaster, no Long Yuan, nothing. My endboard was quite weak. Now I had only Grandmaster and one sad card. That was basically it. I had one Ash, I guess, and yeah, passed turn. In his turn he normal summoned one of his Ignisters. I negated it with my Grandmaster and his Link monster was negated by my Ash, so he had to pass turn. In my following turn I normal summoned Mui, but he had Effect Whaler to stop my Mui effect, so I could only attack for life points. I also summoned the Vishuda to the field to have additional attack points, so he had like 1000 life points or even less left, so I passed turn. In his turn he activated his search card to search himself the fire guy, the fire Ignister. Normal summoned him, I negated his effect with Grandmaster, and his Link monster was negated by Chalice, and that was it. Game 2 he went first, he opened up with the search card to search himself the fire guy, normal summoned the light one and went into the Link monster. It's the key interruption to deny him the field spell, that's the key point here, and I did it. I negated the field spell search, so he couldn't go into his Link 6 and was only left with the Heat Soul. He allows him to draw cards by paying 1000 life points as a quick effect. My opening hand was quite strong, I had Vessel plus the tennies. My Baxia was negated by his Effect Whaler. Followed up with the normal summon Mui, but it was also negated by Gamma. I was like, man, what the heck, double hand trap already. But luckily I had the emergence to search myself the Long Yuan and getting my Sinister Long Yuan to the field. Plus I went into the Shaman by tributing the Monk and the Baxia, and he scooped right away since I had also the level 8 Synchro. Overall a great result for me. Despite the misplay at my Dino match up, I'm still very satisfied with my gameplay, and the next time I will take the first place for sure.
Hey, you very good! See you next time!